Thank you, Acting President. It is with great pleasure that I rise to add my support to this historic and profoundly important legislation, the Statewide Treaty Bill. I'd like to begin my contribution by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. I'd also like to acknowledge that as the member for South Eastern Metropolitan Region, I'm fortunate to represent the lands of the Bunurong and Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders and ancestors, past, present and emerging, as well as elders from across Victoria and First Nations people who join us here today or maybe watching or listening online. I recognise and acknowledge their unceded and unbroken connection to country that continues to guide us today. As I said, this is important legislation which speaks to who we are and who we aspire to be as Victorians. It represents the next step in a long journey of recognition, truth-telling and partnership with the First Peoples of this state. In the southeast and across Victoria, we see every day the strength and diversity that shines bright. My region and our state are home to people from every background imaginable, all contributing to the life and vibrancy of our communities and our state. But we must acknowledge that these are the lands that have been cared for and nurtured by First Peoples for tens of thousands of years. Their cultures, languages and knowledge remain woven into the identity of this place and continue to enrich it today. At the same time, we also see the legacy of inequality and dispossession, with the stark reality that Aboriginal families still experience poorer health outcomes, barriers to education and employment, and limited control over the decisions that affect their lives. Treaty gives us an opportunity to change that story, to move from policy made for communities to policy made with communities. It allows us to build structures that recognise Indigenous leadership and embed self-determination into the way government operates. When people are empowered to make decisions about their own future, they thrive and communities thrive. That is what Treaty is about: partnership, empowerment and inclusion. It's about ensuring that every part of Victoria can see itself reflected in the institutions that serve it. This bill is more than symbolic. It lays the foundation for a new partnership between the Victorian Government and First Peoples. It strengthens the work of the First Peoples Assembly of Victoria to ensure that Aboriginal voices will continue to guide the institutions that will shape treaty negotiations. For Indigenous people, this means more than consultation. It means real decision-making power over education, health, heritage, land use and community development. It means that the wisdom of elders, the creativity of young Aboriginal Victorians, the lived experiences of families will also inform how systems operate. We know that reconciliation cannot be achieved through words alone. It must be built into law, into policy and into practice. This legislation does exactly that. It ensures that the path to treaty is protected and that the work towards self-determination is lasting, not temporary. I stand here today shaped by a family story that spans oceans and languages, of Greek, English, Welsh and Irish heritage, carried across continents, nurtured by parents and grandparents who migrated to Australia, sacrificed, worked hard and held fast to their culture and traditions. These experiences explain why I believe so strongly in the importance of identity, inclusion, understanding and voice. My family's path, like everyone else's who's migrated to Australia, of starting a new life, holding on to identity, culture and traditions whilst contributing to society, taught me that when we respect who people are, their history and culture, we make our state stronger. And this cannot happen if we don't respect those who were here before us, if we don't acknowledge their pain, their suffering and the injustices they have experienced. So when I listen to Aboriginal Victorians speak of country, family, language and story, I recognise something familiar: the same determination to keep culture alive, to be heard with dignity and to shape the next generation. That's why this treaty process matters, because it honours what families teach us about identity and belonging, and it puts those values into practice for the First Peoples of our state. That is what treaty represents. It is not about division, it is about unity through respect. It is about recognising that every culture, every language and every tradition makes Victoria stronger, and that the culture of First Peoples, the oldest continuing culture on earth, is central to who we are as a state. It is about ensuring that no matter where you come from, whether your family arrived last year or has been here for countless generations, you have a voice in shaping our shared future. It is about understanding that change comes when we listen, learn and act together. That is the kind of Victoria we should be proud to build. Treaty asks something of all of us. It asks government to share power and to be accountable. It asks communities to listen and learn. It asks individuals to walk forward with humility and with courage. In the community I live in and represent, those values are already alive in our schools, our community groups, our sporting clubs, and our places of worship. Ours is a region that thrives on diversity, where people from every background live side by side, work together and celebrate together. That same openness and mutual respect is what treaty requires of us all. The Statewide Treaty Bill formalises what many Victorians already believe in, that good governance depends on empathy, listening and shared decision-making. It makes self-determination not a policy slogan, but a practical principle, a way of working that delivers better outcomes for every community. The impact of treaty will be felt in schools that teach local Aboriginal histories with pride, in health services that recognise cultural needs, and in public spaces that acknowledge country and heritage. It will be seen in community programs co-designed with Indigenous leaders and in local decision-making that respects voices of traditional owners. Truth-telling will help us better understand our shared past, to face the difficult truths of dispossession and injustice, but also to celebrate the extraordinary resilience and strength of First Peoples. Through truth comes trust, through trust comes respect, through respect comes unity. That means acknowledging that the story of our state did not begin with migration or modern development. It began with country and with our First Peoples who have cared for it since time began. That truth must remain at the centre of everything that we do. As we consider this legislation, we must remember that treaty is not a journey. The treaty is a journey, not a destination. It will require patience, commitment and faith. It will test us at times, but it will also strengthen us. And I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge my colleague and dear friend Sheena Watt, who we heard from in this chamber earlier today, whose passion, determination and personal journey as an advocate for First Nations recognition, truth and treaty began long before she entered this place, which serendipitously took place 5 years ago today. She has never wavered in her tenacity or leadership, and the same can be said of the member for Geelong in the other place, Christine Cousins. I want to acknowledge the Minister for First Peoples, Natalie Hutchins, and the former Minister for First Peoples, Gabrielle Williams, for their stewardship of the truth-telling and treaty process. I'd also like to acknowledge Gavin Jennings, a former Minister for First Peoples, and many other things, and member of this place, for the role he has played in bringing this treaty to us today. And to our Premiers, first Daniel Andrews and now Jacinta Allen, who for their determination in making this treaty happen. Each have brought authority, grace and knowledge to this space, and I know they have formed long and everlasting friendships and relationships with our First Nations communities along this journey. But more importantly, I wanted to thank those without whom this would not be possible for us to be here today, including the Treaty Advancement Commissioner, Auntie Jill Gallagher, the inaugural co-chairs of the First Peoples Assembly, Marcus Stewart and Auntie Geraldine Atkinson, Ruben Berg and Nagara Murray, who carried the baton for the next generation of the First Peoples leadership, York Justice Commissioners who led the truth-telling process, First Peoples Assembly elected representative, traditional owner groups and everyone who has been part of this long journey. Victoria has long led the nation in recognising the rights of First Peoples through voice, through truth-telling and now through treaty. But leadership means more than being first. It means standing firm in the face of challenge and staying true to principles of justice and equality. To First Peoples across Victoria, your culture, your wisdom and your leadership are the foundation of our shared future. And to all Victorians, from the southeast to the far corners of this state, this legislation is an invitation. It invites us to walk together in truth, to listen deeply, and to build a future where the oldest living culture in the world is celebrated and respected by all. When First Peoples thrive, we all thrive. When our migrant and multicultural communities stand beside them, our state thrives. Together, through treaty, we are creating a new beginning where everyone can be proud of our diversity, where the pain of the past is acknowledged, where our state is stronger, fairer and more united than ever before, and where the hope of a better tomorrow shines brightly for us all. I commend this bill to the House and I wish it a speedy passage.